When garden gnomes began vanishing under the cover of night, Whiskers and Paws followed the trail to a shadowy culprit and uncovered a surprising secret hidden in the woods. Welcome to another chapter in the adventures of Whiskers and Paws. In this episode, our clever feline duo take on the curious case of the gnome thief. You can find more Whiskers and Paws stories on my website, tfhcalifornia.com, or here on TikTok. Now, let's dive into the tale. It started as whispers around the neighborhood. Yard gnomes were disappearing. Mrs. Hensley's cherry red-capped gardener was gone. Mr. Greenfield's fishing gnome had vanished without a trace. And even the quirky gnome in sunglasses from the Parkers' front lawn had been snatched. The humans were perplexed. But Whiskers and Paws, the sharp-eyed tabby duo, knew there was more to the story. One breezing autumn evening, they overheard Mrs. Hensley muttering to a neighbor, "Who would steal garden gnomes? What kind of person does that?" Whiskers' ears perked up, and Paws' tail flicked with curiosity. This was no ordinary theft. This was a mystery. And it was their kind of mystery. That night, as the moon rose high in the sky, Whiskers and Paws settled into position behind the bushes of Mr. Greenfield's yard. It was the perfect spot to catch the culprit in the act. The cool night air was quiet, except for the occasional rustle of leaves or the hoot of an owl in the woods nearby. Hours passed, and just as Paws was about to stretch and yawn, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a human, hunched over, moving stealthily across the lawn. The figure stopped at the base of the flower bed, gently picked up Mr. Greenfield's last remaining gnome, and cradled it like a treasure. Whiskers and Paws exchanged a glance. There was something odd about this thief. Most burglars were quick and sneaky, but this person seemed, lonely. The cats followed the figure, careful to stay hidden, as he made his way down the street and into the woods. At the edge of the woods, they found a small clearing illuminated by moonlight, and there stood a makeshift village of yard gnomes. The stolen figurines were arranged in a circle, their painted faces catching the pale light. The thief, a middle-aged man with messy hair and tired eyes, sat in the middle of them, talking softly. "You're the only ones who listen," he said with a sigh. "People in town, they don't have time for me, but you guys, you don't judge. You don't talk over me, you just listen." Whiskers and Paws crept closer, their sharp instincts softening with understanding. This wasn't just a thief. This was someone who was lonely. Someone who had turned to gnomes for companionship because he felt invisible in the world. The cats huddled behind a tree, silently forming a plan. If this man needed someone to talk to, why not give him a few new friends? Ones that could actually interact. The next night, Whiskers and Paws enlisted the help of the local woodland creatures. The squirrels were quick to volunteer, the owls offered their calm presence, and even the raccoons, notorious troublemakers, seemed moved by the story. Together they formed a delegation to visit the lonely man. At dusk, the animals gathered at the edge of the woods. Whiskers and Paws led the way, their tails held high as they approached the clearing. The man, sitting in his circle of gnomes, looked up in surprise as the animals surrounded him. The squirrels chattered cheerfully, the owls hooted softly, and the raccoons waddled closer, their curious eyes sparkling in the moonlight. Whiskers and Paws stepped forward, rubbing against the man's legs and purring warmly. For a moment, the man simply stared, his eyes wide with disbelief. Then a smile broke across his face, the first genuine smile he'd worn in years. "Are you all here for me?" he asked, his voice breaking. The animals responded in their own ways, chitters, hoots, and purrs filling the clearing. Whiskers hopped onto the man's lap, and Paws batted playfully at the hem of his shirt. The man laughed, tears glistening in his eyes. From that night on, the man was never lonely again. The woodland creatures made regular visits, and Whiskers and Paws stopped by often to check in on him. He returned the stolen gnomes to their rightful owners, replacing them with handmade thank you notes. The neighbors noticed the change in him too. No longer hunched and withdrawn, the man began greeting people with a smile. Slowly but surely, he became a part of the community he'd once felt excluded from. Whiskers and Paws, proud of their work, watched from their favorite perch on the fence. Their mission was complete, and the neighborhood was a better place for it. After all, sometimes being a hero isn't just about solving a mystery. It's about bringing people together. Well, thank you for taking time to listen to my latest story, Whiskers and Paws. If you'd like to explore more adventures, you can find them at my website, tfhcalifornia.com. Until next time, take care and enjoy the journey.